Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Prashant Ajmera. I'm a lawyer by profession, specialized into the residency and citizenship by investment, global mobilities, and the global expansions, assisting the Indian startup founders, SMEs, and a multinational company. And we have put up this particular series together for those Indian businessmen who are interested in European market, whether they are a startup founders, whether they are a SME businessman or a multinational company. Because you all know that on 27th of January, the government of India and European Union signed a free trade agreement. And it is regarded as the mother of all deal. The reason being that it has covered so many different aspects of the bilateral trade between European Union, 27 countries of European Union. And in India, that it has never happened. Though there was a regular business happening between India and Europe, no doubt about it. It's not something new. But with that strong foundation of the business, the deal which has been signed by the Prime Minister Modi and the European Union leadership was historic. And that's why it was tagged as by media and people as a mother of all things. And with that background, we thought that it would be a good idea as a law firm based in Ahmedabad in India to put up some kind of webinar series where we can help the Indian startups, Indian founders, and Indian multinationals who are interested in European Union. We did our first webinar on 19th of May, where we give an overview that how do these European companies, Dealflow and Ventures.eu helps the startup, the investors, and the multinationals who are interested in European market. So today, we're going to talk about how the Dealflow is helping since last 6 years, the European startups, European multinationals and other multinationals who are interested in entering into an European market, and what model they have developed that they, within a 6 years of time, they've helped a number of multinational, and they've done it in a very unique way. Obviously, I won't talk about much, I'm an expert on that. I'll ask and invite our speaker, Vittorio, to talk about that one. So Vittorio, if you can go to your slides and I'll give you an introduction about yourself and go to your next slides. So Vittorio Sambuy is head of the corporate innovation team at Dealflow.eu. He has 15 years of an experience in innovation programs with EIC's corporate partners programs, responsible for Cleantech verticals at Dealflow.eu. Published 2 Deal Rooms reports on EU versus USA, competitiveness, and on EU funded startups. Previously, we worked in merger and acquisition at EIC Corporate Finance with London and environmental engineer at UCL London. So that's his qualification. So with his long experience now, he's working with the Dealflow.eu, and it would be wonderful to hear how he has helped the different multinationals to enter the European market or within the Europe, but expand their markets. So Vittorio, we can't wait to hear from you. Floor is yours. Please let us know.
Thank you so much, Prashant, and it's a pleasure to be here today with you, but with all our audience. It's the second session that we do together, indeed, and after the mother of all deals that you've mentioned, it's great to be here and then start working on this collaboration between India and Europe. Thank you so much for the introduction. First of all, as you have seen, I have quite a technical background myself, but then I've decided to jump into innovation, and I really have this true passion of mine of bringing European startups and European technology and academia to the rest of the world. right? So to other European corporates, but also to Indian corporates. And that's why we're here today. I will quickly give you an overview of Dealflow, of where I work and what our project is, for the ones that
Sure.
didn't attend last week's session, and then I will dig a bit more into the corporate relationship. So as I've told you, I'm leading the corporate partnership department at Dealflow.eu. Dealflow was born in 2019 when a few years ago we started from a contract with the European Union. We now have five contracts with European Commission, which really shows how much the EU and the Commission are important for us. And you might ask yourself, in which way did we work with European Commission? So we won a few contracts. The first one was introducing EU-funded startup to investors. So we built a very big network of investors, around 1,200 investors in our closed network that we continuously share deal flow with, right? So our names, so we share startups that are raising and help them get introduced to investors. Second of all, we've then won another contract with the EU and more specifically with the EIC, where we organize corporate partnership programs. So what we do is we get in touch with Europe's largest corporates and we organize corporate innovation days. I'm going to tell you obviously more about this later on because that's a central topic of the discussion. And then on top of this, we also help startups to relocate to Portugal, apply to EU grants, and also organize lots of matchmaking events around that. Our core is around deep tech, so anything related to clean tech, semiconductors, hardware, biotech, farm tech, and so on. So that's our bread and butter. That's what we've been doing and focusing on, and this has allowed us to build a very large network of startups. So as you can see, we're really at the center of the European innovation ecosystem, and this has allowed us then to also start tackling and focusing more into corporates. So as I've mentioned before, we started from this contract from with the European Union that gave us the knowledge and the credibility to really start talking with Europe's largest corporates. As you can see, we've been talking with from ABB to AB InBev to Coca-Cola, Ferrovial, Thales, P&G, and many others. So we really have been focusing on different verticals in the deep tech space. And what we do is we help corporates solve their internal needs, their internal innovation challenges. We've been organizing more than 30 corporate days in the last 2 years only, actually. So it's been a very packed schedule. But this really has allowed us to understand what works and what doesn't. What are the settings that have been yielding the highest success rate, right? And for us, a success means a commercial partnership between a startup and a corporate, right? So it's a startup with their technology solving a challenge or a need on the corporate side. We've been achieving more than 3 business deals per activity that we organize, which resulted in approximately a 35% pitch to pilot ratio. That's how we call it. Just to clarify, a commercial partnership for us means a small pilot, a POC, but it can also mean a full-on commercial partnership in terms of a joint development agreement, scaling the technology of the startup all the way at a global scale and so on. So this is what we've done and what who we've been working with. I want to tell you a bit more on what we offer the corporates we interact with. So what are the services that we believe can bring the highest added value to our corporates? The first one, actually, let me just take a step back. It's important to note that our services are different packages, right? And you can kind of build your own package depending on your priorities. So what we see is that some corporates struggle a bit to understand what are their innovation needs. They have obviously each business unit has a priority, right? And they focus a lot on improving the product and then selling that product and so on. But they sometimes lack a bit that vision of saying what is the innovation that currently is out there and what do I need inside of in my business unit, right? So what we try to do is really help those business units have a bit that broader vision and understand a bit better what they might need. So that's the market snapshot and innovation package that we tend to offer to our corporates. Then our bread and butter that we've been doing for a lot of time, and we've become very, very efficient at it, not only European level, but also at global scale, is the tailored scouting, right? So once we have the innovation needs, then we really need to go out there. And by using different databases, by using our network and so on, we really can dig very niche into some challenges and really find the perfect setup matching that need in terms of also stage development of the company, so the maturity of the company, but also technological development, so the TRL of the company, and so on. So we really try to understand what the corporate is looking for, and then we go out there and find it. The third step, obviously, also extremely important in the process is the application management, right? So then, okay, great, we found the startups, but then we need to push them into a funnel, get the applications there, make sure that, the startup is really focusing on what they say that they were focusing maybe online, build some multi-channel strategy, make sure that the corporate doesn't waste too much time trying to get in touch with those startups, and we have found very efficient ways to do so. And finally, and that's the ultimate and the ideal scenario that we see works always best, is also organizing an in-person activity, the Corporate Innovation Day that I mentioned previously. So this is a really 2-day activity, typically, where we see the first day focusing more on networking and so on, and then the second day more on startup pitches and also one-on-one meetings. So we really want to focus and prioritize the startup having relevant conversation with the corporate and making sure that, conversations are kind of evolving. By the way, I'm very happy to dig deeper into any of those topics later, and if anyone in the audience has a question, but that's a bit what we offer our corporates. How do we do so then? Like, we have a very interesting tool that really allows us to, onboard our corporates. They start giving us their challenges, and the first step that we do is putting them on our matchmaking platform. So we have developed, thanks to our data team, we've built a very efficient and flexible tool that can be tailored to the needs of the corporates. And what we do is we're basically building an inbound tool for each corporate, right? So we have quite a lot of corporates that are on it right now. We have Philips, Ferrovial, Samsung, Rambo, and many others. And what we do is we allow them to create a profile, they can post their challenges, and then we kind of drive the startup applications through the platform itself. So it's a very digitalized and up-to-date tool that allows all of this to happen in a very efficient way. Well, the best way actually to tell you a bit how we work and what are the results that we could get is by talking to you about a case study. So an actual event that we did. This is one of our private clients that we got, and they're Galp. They're an oil and gas player. They focus mainly on Portugal and Spain, so on the Iberian Peninsula, but then they also have operations in Africa and in other countries. And they really came to us with a pressing need approximately a year ago, telling us, look, we're scouting for, we really have a need for startups solving a specific challenge in the energy management space. So, they were looking into energy storage, battery charging and unloading, and so on. So we really identified 3 challenges that matched well their needs. We went out there, we did the scouting. We actually did it in a very time pressured way because it was a very pressing need that they had. And then we drove, more than 85 applications through their innovation program, with then 12 of them ending up being selected. And this was a very successful event because out of the 12 that pitched, then 45% got a pilot out of those. And then out of those, I think it was 5 of them that got the pilot. Then 30% of those got actually a full-on commercial agreement. So that really shows how efficient this activity was and what we can achieve also with Indian corporates. Another one that I'm a great fan of is the activity and innovation program that we led for Tetra Pak. Tetra Pak, you well know, it's one of the biggest packaging
Packaging company.
And processing technologies companies in the world. We're based in Sweden. They were looking for functional ingredients for their beverages, and so we really went out there again in around 2 to 3 months, and we managed to drive a considerable amount of applications. But especially, what we really want to focus on is rather the quantity of applications. We really want to focus on the success of the activity itself. And I again want to go to this pilot ratio on the bottom right of the slide that you can see, which is the 30%. This 30% really means that 3 startups out of the 12 that pitched, actually the 9 that were in person, are currently collaborating with Tetra Pak. So that's very exciting and really shows how can corporates leverage the innovative technologies that startups can propose to them. I wanted to finish with a little case study related to India and to Indian corporates, and that might speak more to them. You obviously know the biggest group in India called Tata Group, right? One of their one of their sections called Tata Steel recently in end of February 2026 did a partnership with Kraftwerk. Kraftwerk is actually a company that we know very well because they received EU funding a few years ago. So we've been supporting them in getting introduced to investors, and then now it's amazing to see that they managed to collaborate with an Indian corporate, and now are basically reusing the waste heat that Tata Steel industrial plant is not using. So these are really, how synergies can happen between startup and corporates and achieve actually great sustainability, but also just, commercial benefits. I've talked a lot. I think I really just want to double down and summarize a bit why are actually European startups interesting for Indian corporates, what we can deliver, and how we can start. European startup and especially EU-funded ones are startups that have received EU grants, right? So it means that they received up to 2.5 million euros in grants. Some of them also received co-investments in equity. So it means that they are de-risked, right? The risk of these companies' failings is lower. They received more money, both dilutive and non-dilutive, but they also get support from the EIC. So the EIC pays companies like Dealflow to really help them scale. There's many programs to help them expand into other geographies outside of Europe, but also get introduced to corporates, to investors, and so on. So these are startups that are ready to pitch and really they have, I think, an edge in terms of deep tech knowledge and understanding. Europe has, one of the strongest universities in the world. We have a very academia-oriented ecosystem, and so we really see life-changing and market disruptive technologies coming out of European universities. So that's really interesting. Typically, also most of the European startups that we tend to interact with are in our network. They're pilot ready. They're not startups that are in a lab, or still thinking about how to get to an MVP. No, these are startups that have already done pilots before. They know what it means to talk to corporates, and they're now ready to scale, potentially to India or even further than that. And then again, it's a great potential M&A opportunity for Indian corporates. They're very appealing, again, for their disruptive technologies that they've been using. What we can deliver, lots of startups, lots of high growth and de-risk startups to Indian corporates. We also have a big network of corporates that we've been interacting with, so we know, what it means to talk to corporates, what their challenges might be. We've done many market outlooks and market innovation insights exercises, so we really understand what it means to talk to corporates and how to bring startups to them. And we really focus on impact. We are talking to corporates to drive business opportunities for startups. Okay, and we really see this in the pilot ratio that we got as an average in our previous editions. Tata Steel and Kraftwerk is just the beginning, but we want to see more of these, and we really believe that after the mother of all deals that you've mentioned, Prashant, but also, start making India and Europe work more together. There's different ways on how we can start. Obviously,
Mhm.
a call would be ideal, right? And start getting to know each other. I believe that, it all starts from relationships and building relationships with Indian corporates. And then from there, depending on your needs, it could be, start defining some challenges and so do a market outlook definition and understand what is out there and what you could be interested in, and especially in the European ecosystem. Also, start engaging with our matchmaking platform and start adding your innovation challenges if you have them already in there. And then once a few introductions have come in, then the idea is let's take it to the next level. Let's build a whole, corporate innovation day. Could be in India. I would love actually. I've never been there myself yet, so it would be a great excuse to be there and bring high growth and to raise European startups to Indian corporates. With this said, I will give the word back to Prashant, and thank you so much, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, Vittorio. It's an excellent things, but obviously I have a few questions to ask you. So basically, as the first of all, the platform what you have it, is it only for the European startups, or it can be any startup could be there, or it's only meant for the European startup?
Yeah, absolutely. So this tool was initially built more for corporates, right? So they could put their challenges in there, and then we would drive startup traffic in there. But no, absolutely, this is for all startups. If you match any of the challenges that are currently listed on the platform, you can just apply. It's free of charge. You can see the challenges that are out there. You can apply, and then obviously, if there's a relevant need, then and the corporate wants to get introduced, then we just do an email introduction, very plain and simple.
Right. So you keep saying this one word, the challenges. Explain to me that what is this challenges about, corporate challenges?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I guess there's different kind of challenges that corporates face, right? So as I said at the beginning, there's the business units that face day-to-day challenges on operations, marketing, commercial, and so on and so on. Obviously financial, right? So they're strictly related to the short-term business objectives, okay? But these are more on the legacy kind of departments of a corporate ecosystem. Then
Mhm.
there's the innovation challenges, and this is what we really want to focus on. It's saying, okay, I currently, as a business unit, I'm emitting a lot of CO2. Okay, and I know that by 2030, by 2040, I need to get to minus 50%. I need to get potentially to zero, ideally to zero, right? So
Mhm.
this is
Mhm.
innovation challenges because they don't really know what are the solutions out there that they could use in their day-to-day to then decarbonize, their supply chain, but also even just their operations on a day-to-day basis.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So these are more, I would say, rather long-term challenges that the corporates have, and that they simply want to innovate. They simply want to one that we see obviously being talked a lot about recently
Mhm.
is obviously the robotics and AI automation kind of
Mhm.
challenges, right? So it's crazy to say yes, we want to automate and we want to and as an objective, it's very beautiful, but there are so many challenges, innovation challenges, really, that don't allow a big corporate with thousands of employees and thousands of different locations around the world to really implement it. So they go out there and it's like a bit, I like to say it's a bit of a cry for help, and say, where are the startups out there that can solve this specific challenge for me? Okay. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that was clear, but that's a bit what
Yeah, no,
that
I
means.
understand. So, like, I mean, it's, the way in which I see it, because I'm not coming from, I'm a lawyer, so I'm not a technical guy,
Yeah.
person, but the way in which I understand it, I mean, you explain it beautifully, but I like to put it in my words that the companies or multinationals or corporations are facing the problems. So they see that this is the problems in our company, which could be in sales, or it could be marketing, it could be logistic, it could be in innovations that they need to do something. And they are looking for a problems and they cannot find the problems. And those problems or a challenge, what you say is a challenge, is that's where you help them to solve those problems by matching with the startups. Have I got it right? Do you think that that's
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely right. Yeah.
right?
So that's
So,
exactly the thing. It's really on the corporate side, and it's the
uh-huh,
startup solving this problem, with their own technology and so on. So at the end of the day, it's like saying the corporate is the client of the startup, right? So
right.
that's why also startups are very excited to be there and say,
Yeah.
wow, like if you give me the opportunity to talk to an Indian corporate and
Uh,
open, myself a new market and show how disruptive my technology has been in Europe, but not only Europe and in the whole world.
so in terms of the startup founder, what do you think that they like more? They like more that the solution is given to a multinationals or getting a $2 million in a grant or a funding? What do you think? Where they see more gratitudes or more they're jumping that okay, we made it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a good question. I mean, I think both cases are very important for a startup, right? And I think the startup really allows you more on the technical level to really reach some technical milestones and yeah, and simply make sure that your technology delivers, right? Constantly and at scale and so on. So actually startups need grants all over their life, actually, especially at the beginning, right? Because for deep tech
Sure.
startups you need to build big technologies, but then also for the scale up phase, right? Like, so we see also, I don't know, for example, now fusion nuclear companies raising very big grants from government states, and this is the reality, right? So for sure grants are very important, but then that's when at a certain moment of the maturity of a company, of a startup, it's
Uh-huh.
crucial then that they start talking to potential clients, right?
Sure.
And the
Yeah.
potential clients should be large, conglomerates, and the bigger the better, right? Because once your solution gets tested with a pilot, with a POC, and that's our objective as Dealflow, right? Like, put the little step, open the door to the startups into these huge conglomerates and say, look, this is how you need to pitch to them. This is
Yeah.
how, you can really talk to them, and make
And
sure
it,
that you say the things in this way, because then if you prove that your solution actually works well, well, then you have, the door open to not only, one location, but potentially to 10,000 locations around the world for thousands of employees. And, this could really easily get you to $1 billion valuation. So yeah, that's our
so,
objective.
but also as a startup founders, uh, it's a biggest validation for me that the multinational is uh, interested in my technologies just either as a service or probably I'm sure that it might be
Absolutely.
happening that the multinational says, you know what, we're going to acquire this technology. So it could be both possibilities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's a huge let's say, if a corporate validates the risk, and the
Uh,
corporate tends to be the less risk averse, right? Like the more risk averse, right? So if the corporate validates the risk, then it means it's a huge validation for the startup, and then obviously let's not sing victory, but it's a very important step in the life of a startup, right? It's saying, okay, I'm not playing in the small league anymore. I
right.
have, validation from large corporates that, before investing in a startup, they think twice about it. And then, yes, ideally, the final step of the life of a startup is saying,
Yeah.
okay, this technology is so relevant for a corporate, then we get bought. And, and then for M&A, this is a huge opportunity, especially also for Indian corporates.
Right. So you mentioned about this example of the Tata and the company, the European company. What was the name? The
Craft block.
Yeah, correct. So when I did a posting for about that one on my LinkedIn account, he mentioned, I mean, so his CEO of the company says, Mr. Ajmera, you nail it very right, and we are very proud that the conglomerates like Tata Group from India has validated our European technology, and we will be very happy to serve this one to the other similar companies who are losing the heat in the air that we can help to preserve that heat and probably reuse it and all these things. So it was really I mean, it's interesting to see those. But like initially when you approach this multinational, what was their reactions to this kind of a challenge, or did you face any difficulties, or how did you pitch these ideas to the
Yeah.
multinational that come to the startup room? Like
Yeah,
they don't
absolutely.
come.
Well, it's good that you asked because the truth is that there's no corporate that is the same as another. At the end of the day, all corporates are different. They're all built internally different. They get, procurement from different teams. Sometimes it's the business unit having the budget to do the pilots with the startups. Sometimes it's just, the R&D team itself. Sometimes you need, the CEO approval for every kind of little spending. So we really see different corporates, reacting very differently to our startups, and at least they are organized internally very differently. What we try to do though is um, a bit of this data flywheel, right? So understand what didn't work for others, and then for
Mhm.
every new corporate that we meet, then we improve a bit the process, right? And we really make it better. We make it more efficient, by on a day-to-day basis on how we get in touch with the startups to apply, on how we launch, an open call, on how we could get potential in touch with, I don't know, US companies and convince them to come to Europe, right? Um, One of the most critical phases, and it's good that you mentioned, is especially the challenges definition, right? Because it might be very clear for the corporate what they're looking for, but sometimes they define challenges that are very general, also because they are a bit secretive about what really they're looking into, right? And on one side, it makes sense.
Yeah,
And actually, up until, I would say 15 years ago here in Europe, or even 10, open innovation didn't exist. It was, R&D, internal R&D. It's
internal.
closed
Yeah,
innovation.
yeah,
It's like we do
you're
it
absolutely.
internally.
And
But
that's
then
very secretive. That was very secretive.
absolutely. And we still see corporates like being extremely secretive about it. But it's true that there is a very clear change in the market that really shows that open innovation is the way forward. We live in a globalized ecosystem, we live in a globalized economy. And the only
Uh,
way forward is actually, being open about your challenges and saying out loud, I am looking for this type of technology. And that's a very efficient way, to find relevant matches, and for sure it helps us too, because then we can say it out loud, about who we're looking for, and for whom we're looking for. So yeah, but for sure every corporate manages differently.
Yeah, obviously. But in that terms, like as you mentioned about the R&D, the corporates who has gone through your programs, did they realize that we are saving time, money, and energy in doing this way and solving our problems? Have they realized it, or have they
Yeah.
said thank you, Dealflow?
Yeah. Well, they're very grateful indeed, and that's what makes, at the end of the day, my day-to-day job, very very impactful, and I'm very motivated because you really see it when. So initially it was purely internal R&D. Then they started doing, more open innovation, but they still wanted to do the scouting. They didn't really want to hire external advisors, specialists in this field. They were just like, we're going to do it on our own. Why spending money on this? But then they
Yeah.
realized that the amount of work that there is behind even just organizing a corporate innovation day, it's a program that can last from 3 to 4 months. There's a lot of people behind it, especially sometimes we don't have any knowledge on how to run such a program, right? So us
Uh,
has been more than 30 activities, again, that every time we understand what can be improved, and then what a corporate might do in a whole year, we can do it in 3 months now, you know? So at the end of the day, I don't even think that the price that you would, pay for, hiring us to do the whole work it's actually worth it. I actually believe it's worth it, because then they would just spend more money, time, efforts, and headaches, especially to run a whole, 1 year program when we could just do it in 3 months. So yes, they really see the value now. And this is actually where it's moving towards a bit. And that's why now we're full on scaling our corporate innovation efforts. We really see it working. It's corporates understand that they can't do it all. outsourcing these kind of services can be very beneficial for them and very time saving.
So in terms of the Indian startups, like say, for example, I have some kind of a technologies. I believe that my technology can be of a use to somewhere in Europe
Yeah,
or some companies in Europe. So do you think that I can basically register on the Dealflow.eu platform, which you mentioned?
absolutely.
And probably as and when you have a company or a startup, whether, I mean, so the corporates whom you are assisting, and they might look at my technology. I don't have to relocate to Europe. I don't have to come there or anything. But basically, this is the one way of bringing my technology to the multinational who is interested in European market, basically.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's a very good point. So every corporate client that we have, we tend to add their innovation challenges on the platform. So the idea is saying for some of them, we're just scouting for European startup because that's what they ask us. So obviously then it's going to be very clear in the application that it's only for European startups. So obviously read
Mhm.
the application before applying for Indian startups. But there's many times, and this is an exercise that we've done actually for Galp. It's actually not the one that I'm showing right now on the slides, but it's a very similar one. So it's the same flagship innovation program as this one, so the Startup Innovation Day. But for the one for this year, they asked us to reach 200 applications. We got
Uh-huh.
actually 300 applications, so
Okay.
that was a very great success, approximately a 50% increase. But
Uh-huh.
then what really made us understand the power of our network and how far Dealflow can get is that we had actually 46% of the applications coming from outside of Europe. So
Oh,
this really
okay.
shows actually how much Indian startups can also apply to these programs. If you're working in the energy environment and you really believe you can match the challenges that Galp has defined, you're more than welcome. Well, technically now they're closed, but we're gonna run also the next one, and technically you could apply, and sometimes even Galp like pays for the flight for the startups to come all the way from abroad and pitch in front of them. So I think it's been a great success also this one for Galp, and it really
So,
shows how Dealflow is the leader. I like to say it this way: Dealflow is the leader innovation ecosystem in Europe, but we really understand that now is the time to go global. It's the time to
global.
show, okay, now from Europe we can bring the startups and the corporates to the rest of the world.
That's
And
great.
and this series of webinars is the perfect way to do
Yeah.
so.
And what is the websites you mentioned? I think it's an earlier slide you mentioned what is the website that I can go as a corporate or get it registered? It's a slide before this, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let me just get the right slide. Exactly, it's here. So
Yeah.
it's
Matchmaking.dealflow.eu.
matchmaking.dealflow.eu.
Okay,
Exactly. S-
matchmaking. So it's good.
Matchmaking.dealflow.eu.
So,
Yeah.
so it's good for me as a startup founder, or it is good for the multinational. They both go to the same place.
Exactly. That's the easy next steps, right? Like the call to action is just go to this link that I sent in the chat, and
Yeah.
then you can start, creating a profile. It takes not even a minute. It's just, you can add your logo, give more information, and the more complete your profile is, the more actually corporates also sometimes they look at the database
Right.
and they're doing it like then outbound work rather than inbound. They're going them outside and they're like, okay, I want to by use the filtering and our AI capabilities on the platform, they can really just say like, give me a startup working in energy in the database, and then if there's an Indian startup, they can just request to be introduced. So that's also a very cool feature of the platform itself.
Excellent. Excellent. So I think it's a really, really great. I don't have any more questions as of now. And I think already we have taken about 40 minutes of time.
Yeah,
But if there is any questions from the audience or anything, then Vittorio would be here to answer the question if you have it.
yeah,
Obviously, we're doing the recording of this one, so we will share it with you in social medias and on our YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, I
Also this
see.
week.
I see a question actually in the Q&A from Ankur
Okay.
Jindal. So thank you for the question. What is your pricing model for the services? So very good question for this one. What we tend to do is typically a set fee depending on the different packages that you choose. So let me actually get that slide, so I think it's going to be easier to explain. But basically, every package has a price, and then depending on what you need, then it can go as little as 10,000 euros for market snapshot and scouting exercise, but then it can actually go all the way to a full-on innovation day organization starting. That then obviously depends on the amount of challenges that the corporate has, the amount of startups and so on, but it can go all the way up to 60,000 euros for such a program. I would like to flag that there's a few US players that do something similar, but just for you to know, they charge 500,000 euros to do such an exercise. So we tend
Absolutely.
to stay, yeah. We tend to, I mean, they're for sure very good at doing it, but for now we really stay, on the less expensive end, and we're really trying to build these relationships, right? So again, an ideal scenario that I would see myself is, maybe a few Indian corporates joining forces and organizing an activity in India. And then, we are the partner that is going to scout the European startups and make sure to bring them to India and do an in-person event there. That would be ideal. And then obviously then the cost can be split amongst different corporates. Cool. Thank you for the question. I think we're just arrived at the end time of the webinar. But again, if there's any questions, I would also drop my email in the chat, so you can just send me an email and get in touch if you would like to have a quick call to clarify any of the points that I mentioned today. I can also send you more information, and you will obviously also receive this presentation together with the recording.
Yeah, certainly. We will share all the contacts, the matchmaking.dealflow.eu. That's also we'll share this video where we share, because this video would be very informative as well. Like it's for the people to get all the questions, answers, and everything. Sometimes they may not have a time to join this webinar at this point in time, but they can join. But I think so we had a very excellent sessions. Have we stopped recording, or it's just stop, right?
I'm stopping.